All right, guys, the time is here. It is time for me to do the series that I've been so excited to do. It is nothing really deep. It's nothing complicated. It's actually rather simple, but I think that it has the potential to make a huge difference in the confidence level of a lot of you who are already in the ESL classroom and just do not have a lot of confidence, or those of you who are considering being ESL teachers but are not sure that you have what it takes. Whether you work for a company where you are handed the curriculum and the students and you are just to teach what is there, or if you are someone who is teaching entirely independently, these strategies can apply to all of you. But no matter who you are, it is time. These are some simple strategies for effective ESL teachers. All right, let's do this. Today we are covering the first strategy on my list, and it is going to sound overly simple, but please hang with me. There is more to it than you think, and I think that it is probably the most important or crucial strategy to be using right from the start. Forgive the noise in the back. I have tried to wait it out, but this has been going on forever because apparently this is the last day of the fair for this town. Who knew? We just moved here. Anyway, I'm just going to keep recording as if nothing is happening, but if you hear that's what that is. Celebratory fireworks and bombas. I'm not feeling it. Okay, the number one strategy that is so very important is to know your student. I know, I told you it was simple. Just wait, it's coming. It sounds so very simple, and to some extent it is, but it's absolutely essential to the learning process in my humble opinion. So I'm going to walk you through 5 specifics in what I mean by this. Know your student. What am I talking about? First, you need to know your student's name. It seems obvious, but remember, our names are one of the biggest things that give us our identity, that help us to stand out from the people around us. If you meet someone on one occasion and the next time that you see that person, they can say your name specifically and something about the conversation you had, aren't you going to really appreciate that connection? I would maybe even be surprised. Oh, they still remember my name. We only talked once. We only talked for a few minutes. And oh, they not only know my name, but they remembered something that we discussed in our 5-minute conversation. Names are so important to us as humans, and taking the time to know your student's name right from the start can make a really big difference to both the student and the student's parents if they are paying attention. Now, I often overuse the name a bit in the first lesson, so it sounds really silly, but maybe my student says, "Oh, my name is Sarah." Sarah, it is nice to meet you, Sarah. Sarah, how old are you? You're 5 years old? Sarah, you're so old. Do you have any brothers or sisters? You have one big brother? That's great, Sarah. Do you love your big brother? No. All right, so I'm getting a little too into this considering you're not my student, but I stick my student's name in the questions and answers that I am giving as much as I can right in the beginning, to some degree. Don't go too overboard, but I do this partially because it's helping that name stick for me so that I don't forget it a few minutes from now. And it's also just letting my student know, I heard you, I'm listening, I see you. Again, we associate name big time with our identity. So you are showing your student that you see him or her and that you care. So use the name and use it a lot, at least in the beginning. Number 2, know his personality. Now, each student is going to have very different personalities, just as you and I have different personalities. Some are shy, some are very confident, some are introverted, some are extroverted, some are very diligent and like to focus hard in the classroom. Others are very carefree and would much prefer to learn through a game. Some are much more serious and get very uncomfortable with too much play. Others are extremely playful and will get uncomfortable if you're too serious. You need to watch for the clues to the student's personality right off the bat. You're not going to say, "Are you shy? Are you serious? Are you playful?" Of course not. But as you start talking to the child, pay attention. Watch face expressions. Watch how the parent is responding or behaving if the parent is nearby. You're smart. I think you can figure it out. But watch for those clues right from the start so that you know how to respond to your student, so that you can control your volume, your level of excitement, the kind of questions that you ask your student, the things that you try to get from them. If your student is really shy and is not confident speaking right off the bat, you might not want to ask really open-ended questions that require a lot of speaking, even if they're at the level that they're able to do so. You may want to instead share a couple of things about yourself and ask very easy questions, some yes or no questions, or something that requires very little in response, so that your student can feel comfortable right off the bat. On the other hand, you might have a student who is so excited to speak, and you want to give them that opportunity to share whatever it is that is on their mind right from the start, so that they are also ready to engage. Knowing your student's personality is going to help you in your engagement with them for the rest of that initial class and all of the classes to come. And if you can recognize your student's personality and respond appropriately, it's going to help you make a better connection with the student so that he or she is ready to continue classes with you. Number 3 can be similar to number 2, but not necessarily. You should learn your students' learning style. Now, different people learn different ways. Some learn best having visual cues. They're going to want props and flashcards, things like that. Some people are auditory learners. They like to hear the answer, hear the speech. They're absorbing that information. Some are very hands-on, and it might be good for you to have them grab props in their own home if it's a young child. Doing things with their hands as they're learning, it's going to keep their mind occupied and help them learn the information better. Go ahead and do a quick search and learn just a little bit about the different learning styles so that you are familiar with them and so that you can think through how to implement teaching styles that maybe wouldn't apply to you but are going to make a big difference to your student. And again, you're not going to just use it in that lesson. You will use that for many lessons to come. And that one might take a bit longer to figure out. It might take you a few lessons to figure out what your student's learning style is. But start watching right from the beginning. Number 4, know your students' interests. It's so important. Say I meet someone at the park. She is not married. She does not have any children. She does not like children. She's maybe into business. We can't relate at all in our faith. We try talking about a number of different topics and nothing is clicking at all. It's really hard to connect with that person, and likely I'm going to leave and be fine, never chatting with her again. I'm not saying I wouldn't be happy to chat with you if we have no common interests. I'm just saying it makes it a lot easier. The same is going to be true for any of your students, whether they are children or adults. If you can find some of your students' interests and engage them in conversation on that, you're likely to get much better responses from them. Your students are going to be more eager to speak, more eager to share things if it relates to something that they care about. Why would we just pick a topic and say, oh, you have to talk to me about this our whole class together because I chose it today? I'm not saying that we always have to pick the favorite thing of the students to talk about, but when you can, give your students options. If your student brings something up in class that you weren't necessarily going to cover, but it lets you practice language, speaking, listening, writing, reading, engage them, go with it. Tuning into your students' interests can just open the door wide for learning because the student is very receptive. Your students will be ready to receive so much more naturally if you are just following their interests and going with it. And remember, when you are teaching English, when you're teaching a language, anything is an opportunity for learning and growth. Any conversation, anytime you are using English, it's a win. You can make it a win. So use the student's interests, and you can only use the student's interests if you know them from the beginning. So pay attention to what the child likes. And you can ask questions right from the start. What TV show do you watch? What is your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? What do you do when you are at home? Or what do you do when you're outside? You will quickly learn a lot of your students' interests. If it's someone older, you can directly ask them, what things are you interested in? But make sure you know and use their interests. And number 5, know the student's family. Now, you don't always have this option, but if mom or dad are hanging close to where the student is, make sure you acknowledge him or her. Say, hello, mom. Hi, dad. How are you? It doesn't have to be a lot. The parents might not even know English, but when you can, touch base with them. But if you're writing mom or dad before class, you can ask, how do you feel about the classes so far? How does your child feel? Is there anything that you think could be done a little bit better? Or maybe you don't want to open up that invitation because some parents can be a little bit controlling and overbearing, but you might want to say, oh, your child has been doing so good in class. I noticed this and this. You must be so proud. Reaching out to the parents can help you to form that connection with them, because in the case of teaching children, often the children are not the ones that are choosing you as a teacher, their parents are. So you want to make sure that you are in touch with the parents, that you are making yourself available for communication, and that you are communicating in a way that is respectful and friendly, even if you can't always commit to whatever the parents are requesting or saying. And if your student is not a child, maybe it's a mother. I had a class with a mother the other day and her children came into view, so I talked to her children and then I asked the mom about her children. All of these things are just showing that you care. Again, it's making that personal connection with your student, and it's letting them know that you see them and you see their lives and you're interested, you care. And one more thing to add for those of you who are teaching children, sometimes you can bring mom, dad, sister, brother into the lesson, depending on what you're teaching. You can pull mom into the lesson and say, we're learning hug today. Can you hug your mom? And have mom hug and make it part of the fun. The other day, I was helping a student learn he has, she has, I have, you have, and we talked about a bird that has wings, and then I said, does your brother have wings? And he giggled and said, no. And I said, does your mom have wings? And she was right off the side, and he's like, no. And then mom got in on it and was playful. Again, these little things, they're just making connections. We're making connections wherever we can. And that's it. Those are the 5 main points I have for just knowing your student. And you're not going to be able to do all of this in one class, but you can do little things working in that direction right from class on day 1. And if you are in a situation where you do trials before you are teaching students, this is going to let them feel that connection right from the start that makes them want to come back and take more classes with you. If there's no personal connection, it's really easy for them to say, let's try another teacher. We'll see what happens. And it's much less likely that they'll be back. But it's not just about retaining students, it's also about helping them to have the personal connection they need so that they are ready to learn and receive the information that you're going to teach them. So, what do you think? Is that helpful to you? Is it super obvious and you're saying, what a waste of a video? Feel free to share your thoughts below, and I hope that you will join me next time for strategy number 2. See you then.